Hi there, and welcome to Scout the Game Week. Scout the Game Week is Fantasy Football Scout's weekly podcast brought to you by the Scout Network. In each episode, we'll look back at the game week we have just played to assess what we can learn to help us in the next round of fixtures. I'm your host, Ryan from Football Chatbox. Let's scout the game week. Game week 15 is ongoing with two more games left, but we're here to discuss the upcoming game week 16 and also to talk about what has happened in game week 15 so far. To discuss all of this, I'm joined by FPL Inzaghi, Ryan. So we got namesakes basically here. How are you doing, mate? And how is the game week going for you so far?
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me on. It's great to be on here. I enjoy listening to Scout the Game Week every week. You do a fantastic job. So, yeah, great to be a part of it. Great timing to get me on this game week because I'm having a fantastic game week so far. I'm on 43 points we've still got two games to go. I've got a couple of players left in Porro and Son, but I'm on a 43% green arrow. So I've jumped from 750k to 420k, which is, yeah, fantastic so far. And really the heroes for me this game week have been Trent. Not many people have Trent. His effective ownership at my rank is just 7%. So he scored 12 points, fantastic from him. And then Cole Palmer and then the likes of Mbeumo and Saka kind of chipping in with some points as well. So yeah, it's been a great game week so far.
Insane. To be honest, I'm looking at him and I'm like, this guy has exactly the kind of questions that I want to ask because Trent is a topic that everyone's like discussing. And the way you got Trent is also because of no Haaland. And we'll talk about that as well when we get to it. But yeah, really good game week for you. Me, on the other hand, I didn't have no Trent, no Cole Palmer. So the rest of the team is like, I still have 5 players though, because I have triple Newcastle to play with Anthony Gordon as well, and Bowen and Ariel as well. So on 21 right now. So we'll see what happens tomorrow in terms of the Newcastle games. And you got Son, which is also another talking point going forward, which I'll try and link with maybe Mbeumo and all. But let's start with the Luton versus Arsenal game, shall we? So, another big team going to Luton and finding it tough. Finding a tough place to play at. However, Arsenal did come away with the win. What did you take away from that performance?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see Arsenal get the win. I was watching the game and then I had to take my son to his kindergarten orientation and I kind of turned it off. It was 3-3. There was like a minute left and I thought, oh, great, Arsenal have dropped points. And then I was so surprised to see Declan Rice with the winning goal. I think probably the most obvious talking point is David Raya and Arsenal defensively. I've got David Raya in my team. I've got Saliba as well. A lot of people have an Arsenal defender. Potentially, they've got two. And looking at that game, it was very frustrating. And you're asking questions about whether Arteta's looking to bring Ramsdale back in, but it was only a couple of game weeks ago against Brentford that Ramsdale looked quite poor. I'm not sure if Arteta will make that change. I've still got every confidence in Raya starting, but it's alarming to see him concede the goals that he did. I think he was at fault for at least 2 of the goals. So from the eye test perspective, it was quite concerning. But if you look at the stats, Luton only had an XG of 0.5. 2 of their goals came from set pieces. And then one of the goals from Ross Barkley. I think David Raya really should have done more there. And across the season, Arsenal still have the best defence in the league. So I think it's too much of a knee-jerk reaction to say that Arsenal are bad defensively now. I think we've got enough data to say that they're still good defensively. There are some mistakes, though, creeping in. And we've seen this with City in recent seasons where statistically they've got a great defense, but it's just that one chance that Edison lets in or that they kind of make a mistake at the back and then suddenly they concede a goal and that clean sheet's gone. So we're kind of seeing something similar with Arsenal. I don't think it's fair to say their defense is bad, but they're making some mistakes. So, yeah, that was a concern for me. But then I think the opposite end of the pitch is the Arsenal attack. And that's really started to kick into gear now that Gabriel Jesus has returned to fitness, Odegaard as well. I think last game week, it was the first time since the beginning of the season or early on in the season that Arteta was able to name Martinelli, Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka all in the starting lineup. And we saw the difference that made to Arsenal's attack. And again, they scored 4 goals here against Luton. I think, yeah, well, Arsenal, their attack is probably one to monitor because the fixtures are there from an attacking perspective, but defensively, the fixtures get really difficult from now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because from a defensive perspective, like you mentioned, right, a lot of people probably have double Arsenal defense. I've got one Arsenal defender, so I'm okay to keep them. Like I have Gabriel, so I'm okay to keep him like during this tough run. But double Arsenal defense, I don't know. It depends. Like if you have both the centre backs, um, the only problem is where would you actually go to? And I have a question with regards to that in terms of defenders, which we might get to later. But I might be tempted at times to kind of get rid if it's two Arsenal, like the both centre backs. The only exception I would make would be if you had one of the centre backs and Zinchenko, because I still think Zinchenko is a really good FPL asset going forward, attacking, bonus points potential. And in the big games, Arsenal will try and keep it tight, or we've seen a more pragmatic approach from Arteta. So that's what I'm kind of expecting to happen. But you've got defender and goalkeeper side. I don't think Drea will lose his spot, to be honest. I think Arteta still thinks he is the first choice, so I don't expect that to change. But yeah, attack has improved with the return of Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, and probably will continue to do well. But that's where I'm
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with you. I think if you've got Saliba and Gabriel, probably the time now is to move one of them on. You don't want to be making too many defensive transfers, but
Mm.
we haven't seen many clean sheets this season. I think you just pick the likes. We'll talk about defenders. I know that you've got a question a little bit later on, but there are other fullbacks that you can pick who
Mm.
have way more attacking upside. And I think if I had Saliba and Gabriel, I'd be tempted to move one of them on because looking at their fixtures, they've got Villa away this week.
Yes.
We've seen what Villa have just done to City. And at home, they've been so consistent. So they've got Villa away, Brighton at home, and then Liverpool in the next three. I don't think Arsenal keep a clean sheet in any of those games.
Yeah, I don't see a clean sheet in any three because Brighton score every single game, even though they concede. Villa, like we said, monsters, and then Liverpool are the best attacking team in the league right now. So yeah, probably no clean sheet at all. But even then, it's like two. That's why I'm like, if you have two, I probably might move one. Is why I'm thinking in terms of
Yeah.
Arsenal defense. Okay, so that's Arsenal, but let's talk about City now. Another Rodri-less City means another loss this season. They were really poor, or I should say Aston Villa were really good. Villa face Arsenal next, and City played Luton next away as well. Again, a lot of top teams have gone to Luton and found it a bit hard. From a City perspective, you have no Haaland in your team. Are you looking to extend that, or what's the plan?
Yeah, great question. Congrats to Villa as well and Villa fans. They must be loving life at the
Mm.
moment. I think you nailed that on the head. Yeah, City, it's not so much about City being poor, but Villa being good. And also without Rodri, that's a key factor. But you're right. I don't have Darwin in my team. And it's been a while now. I took him out on the Game Week 8 wild card. The plan was to get him back in this week. So the plan was Salah downgrade to Foden, and then I was going to upgrade Darwin to Haaland. So losing the two Liverpool attackers for the two City attackers. And, it didn't feel great losing Salah, but I don't think that there's enough justification to go to premiums in
Mm.
Salah and Haaland when you've got so many assets like Trent and Trippier and Son and Saka and these kind of mid-tier premiums doing really well. And I think when you look at captaincy, there aren't too many fixtures I want to captain Salah in
Mm.
between game week 16 and game week 20. And then he goes, of course, to the African Cup of Nations. So I kind of made my bed with going without Salah and
Yeah.
going just for Haaland. But the Mbeumo injury has completely thrown that plan off now. So I'm a little bit frustrated because I look at that Luton fixture for City, and I think Haaland's the best captain in that
Yeah.
game. I look at Crystal Palace in 17. I think Haaland's the best captain there. They blank in 18, but then they've got Everton and Sheffield United. So in the next 5 game weeks, Haaland's the best captain in 4 of them, and one of them he's not playing. So
Mm.
I am scared now, potentially going without Haaland. But I think at this stage, if the deadline was in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
I would be going without Haaland again until game week 20. So the plan at this stage now, I'll have to do some more digging, and we've got a couple of days before the deadline.
Yeah.
But potentially, what I'm looking at the moment is is selling Mbeumo for someone like Douglas Luiz or kind of like a cheaper midfielder. And
Mm,
the reason I want to sell Mbeumo for Douglas Luiz is because I can have him in place for the game
mm,
week 18 blank. And I think that he's probably the second best pick from Villa. And then I would upgrade Archer to Alvarez and I'd play like a 3-4-3, 3-5-2 based on the fixtures. So I could bench Douglas Luiz against Arsenal this week, for example, play Alvarez against Luton. And then when Alvarez has that blank in 18, I can put him on the bench and I can play Douglas Luiz. So that's kind of what I'm looking at if I go without Haaland. But if I'm too scared of that Luton fixture, the Haaland plan would potentially be a hit. And I don't
mm,
need to take a hit, but I think that I could go something like Salah and Mbeumo to Foden and a cheaper midfielder like Garnacho or Willian, and then upgrade Archer to Haaland and
mm.
play 3-4-3 again. So it might be a little bit confusing, but there's
No, no,
so many
yeah,
permutations going on in my head what to do with Haaland, and the Mbeumo injury has made it difficult.
yep, fair enough. Are you not worried about the Alvarez drop in form, or I guess Bernardo playing with Alvarez takes so Bernardo tends to take the ball away from Alvarez in terms of like set pieces, and also when Alvarez is trying to cross the ball, he's like, no, I'll do the crossing, and then Alvarez has to get into the box. So, are you not worried about that kind of like change in play style slash drop in form?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked at Alvarez too much as an option because I haven't been considering him up
Mm,
until now.
mm.
I mean, against Aston Villa today, he had a 0.00 XGI,
Yeah,
so
that was
no
the City
attacking
team
threat.
and whole. I'll get to that, but yeah.
Yeah. But then against Spurs, he had a 1.0 XGI, zero point 0.4 against Liverpool the week before that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think earlier on in the season, he was potentially overperforming his
Mm,
stats. And recently, the returns haven't been there.
mm,
I think you're right. Like, Bernardo is taking the ball kind of in the positions you want Alvarez to be taking the ball up in. But at his price, with the fixtures that they've got, and his expected minutes are still good.
mm,
He came off early against Villa today. I think he'll start again against Luton. If I want a slice of that City attack, I'm not expecting him to cover Haaland, but if I can get a slice of the City attack for 7 million, then I'm okay with that.
mm. All right, fair enough. Now Aston Villa, on the other hand, played really well, and I understand the Douglas Luiz because he's on pens as well, so that
Mm.
is a really good call. Now they created many chances, but really didn't finish them off, but they're still a pretty good team to have in FPL. But we might need to change who we have with both Cash and DRB kind of like doing nothing. I'm also going to say that so Aston Villa had 22 shots in this game. City had only two, and that two was that Haaland double chance at the start. So after the 11th minute, City had zero XG.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they battered them. They absolutely battered them. I'm sad that I didn't get to watch the game really. I just saw highlights because I was watching the United Chelsea game. But from what I could see on Twitter, people were just saying how good Villa were,
Mm,
and Villa Park was rocking, and it looked like a deserved victory for Aston Villa. Yeah, you make a good point though on the Villa assets. Like with the rotation around Diaby and Bailey, they're both great, but we
mm,
can't predict their minutes too accurately at the moment. I'm not sure if we've got enough of a sample size to understand what Emery's doing there. And Diaby kind of had the starts early. Now it looks like Bailey's coming back into the team. I would just avoid that. I
mm.
don't like picking players who are a rotation risk. I'd rather the certainty of minutes. And you want players for game week 18. In any other kind of situation, you could probably stomach a benching and,
Yeah.
and chance it with Bailey and Diaby and attack the upside. But whichever Villa players you have, you really need them to come through for you in game week 18. And so you need to kind of value the expected minutes a little bit higher. And that's why Douglas Luiz is probably, in my opinion, the second best attacker to go for. As you say, he's on penalties, on set pieces. He hit the post again today. So he's got a good kind of long range shot on him. His chance creation is not too bad as well for kind of a deeper midfielder. And then Watkins, if you don't have Watkins in your team, I'd say he's probably the best captain in 18.
Mm.
So
Ooh.
Watkins and Douglas Luiz look like two of the best
Mm.
players to own at the moment. Defensively, I mean, Matty Cash has been benched again. He's in my team. I think I'm just going to hold him
Mm.
until we get closer to game week 18 and hope that he gets his place back. But I wouldn't be buying him now. I wouldn't really be buying any Villa defender apart from someone like Pau Torres. But again, we're looking at centre backs in a
Yeah.
season where there aren't too many clean sheets, so the upside feels pretty low there. I'd avoid Luka Dean and Moreno. There's too much rotation there, similar to Bailey and Diaby.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think Watkins probably the second best striker in the game as well. So I wouldn't look to sell him at all. I think he's at the rate he's playing, even though he didn't score today. Probably a season keeper, or maybe a bit too early to say season keeper, but he's showing the form that like no other striker is really showing apart from maybe Haaland, let's say.
Yeah. Do you think he's a second best striker behind Darwin
Oh yeah, definitely. Darwin is
or Haaland?
Darwin. I would put third just because of the minutes problem.
Yeah, of course.
If
At least
Darwin was 90 minutes, I would rate Darwin over
Yeah.
Watkins. Yeah, but yeah, no.
he came off the bench and got an assist
I
today,
know.
Darwin.
You know, but still, he came off the bench. That's the problem. He didn't start.
Yes. More points than Haaland, though, and he got
Yeah.
a yellow card.
True.
Yeah.
But we'll get to Darwin as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Villa are really good. The Watkins 18 captaincy could be an option, but I'll when I get to like the Brentford one, I'll tell you what I'm thinking in terms of like
Ooh.
captaincies and all. Now let's move on to the Brighton Brentford game. So Mbeumo scored the penalty, but then went off injured. We aren't sure yet what extent of the injury, like how long he's going to be out for, or if it's just a precaution or what. But with the blank coming up as well, would you look to sell him, and for who?
Yeah, it's not ideal timing for Mbeumo. It didn't look good, did it? Like
No.
any injury that forces you from the field and the way that he went down and the way that he came off, it suggests that it's going to be a little while. And in this busy period, people have said it a million times before, you miss a week or two, that's potentially 2 to 3 game weeks, with the game weeks coming thick and fast. So obviously we'll have to wait for news from Thomas Frank to see if we get anything. I'm not sure we should get a press conference before game week 16, or at least we should kind of hear some reports from the club filtering through. Yes, Sheffield United away from home next. He was going to be a fantastic pick for that game. If he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, then he's an obvious sell with the African Cup of Nations in game week 21, I should say, and the blank. Yeah, it depends on how much value you've got invested in him. If you've just bought him recently, there's no issues there selling him. And then you can kind of, if they double, and that's a big if, you can look to bring him back in game week 20. But yeah, as you say, we'll have to wait and see for an update as to if we sell him. And did you ask who should we look for as a replacement? Yeah. I think there's an opportunity here. So Mbeumo is what, 7.1 million, I think, around that 7 million mark.
7.1, but selling price will depend on when you got him, I guess.
Sure, maybe high sixes or something like that. So, yeah, I think there's an opportunity. A lot of people are talking about Trent and Trippier and kind of seeing these defenders get 12 points, and they keep a clean sheet, get an attacking return, and there's your bonus points. And I think there's a potential opportunity to downgrade Mbeumo to someone like a Palmer or even a Hwang or a Willian, a Gordon, or even a Douglas Luiz. I don't mind. We've spoken about him. And these midfielders, they can rotate quite nicely with your fourth defender or even a third forward. So we've been on 3-5-2 for most of the season. But if I didn't have Trippier or Trent in my team, I'm looking at Trippier's run of fixtures, especially from game week 17. They've got Fulham, Luton, and Forest, right? If I didn't have Trippier or Trent, I'd potentially go Mbeumo down to Palmer or down to Gordon or Willian, as I've said, and then look to upgrade those funds from a Gabriel or a Saliba or a Cash to one of the more premium defenders. So that's kind of where I would go. But if you want to play around the same price and you've got a little bit more money in your bank, I think Phil Foden's a good player to go for.
Okay, fair enough. Even with the blank, if you have like room with the blank in terms of bench and everything. Yeah.
I mean, because Mbeumo's blanking 18 anyway,
Yes.
You're not adding a blanker.
Yeah, true.
You're getting a player with great underlying stats, with good expected minutes, who's got Luton, Palace, blank, Everton, Sheffield United, double. So I think Foden's a good pick.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I was talking about this day before with Mira, FPL Mez, and Reddy from the FPL Addicts team on my podcast. We were talking about like selling potentially Mbeumo after the Sheffield United game, but now it looks like it might be earlier for a Palmer. And up because I have Bowen and I think Mira had like Diaz, and upgrading that move to a Huming Sun as a move because we already had Trippier in our teams. So
Yeah,
like
I like
I
it.
agree with your this thing. If you don't have Trippier, like you can go and get it because Newcastle's run that's upcoming is about to be really good. Same with like Trent is just 40 points in the last 4 game weeks or something from him. So insane record from him as well. So that is what I was thinking because I was thinking if can get Son game week 18, he's also another good captaincy option for game week 18 against Everton.
Yeah,
I've already
totally agree.
captained Watkins before, and because of that past experience, I'm like, do I really want to put it on him again? Is what I'm like unsure about. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I really like that idea. Yeah, I think it depends. If you don't have Son, then
Mm,
he's one of the main priorities over Trent and Trippier, I think. But if you've got Son in your team, yeah, you can play around with that Mbeumo pick. If you've got 2 free transfers, downgrade Mbeumo. There are great budget midfielders on offer,
yeah,
and then look to upgrade elsewhere to improve your team.
yep, fair enough. All right, let's talk about the Manchester United versus Chelsea game. Cole Palmer scored once more, but McTominay came with the sauce, which I think now makes him United's leading goal scorer in the Prem. I think probably. From an overall view, I just thought this game was too open, and both sides should have been punished for how open it was. But what did you think?
Yeah, I agree. It was like watching a tennis match at
Mm,
times, just back and forth, back and forth. I don't know how many saves Sanchez made, but yeah, it would have been +7, +8, something like that, I
yeah.
reckon. And the XG in that game, I think United had an XG of over 4 against Chelsea. That includes a penalty as well, but by halftime, United had over a 2.6
Mm,
XG. And looking at the last 6 matches, Chelsea have the second worst defense for minutes per XGC. So they're expected to concede a goal every 44 minutes. So looking at not just one a game, but they're expected to concede 2 goals a
mm,
game. And here we are talking about Sanchez or Colwill or Reece James. I think Chelsea's defense isn't a void. Yes, Reece James has the attacking threat and he came on and looked good, but you've got the lack of clean sheets. I don't expect many clean sheets, even in the more friendly fixtures, you could say. I still don't think Chelsea have that defence to keep clean sheets. And obviously, you've got the injury and the rotation. He didn't start today because of some knee pain that he
mm.
had. So it feels like here we go again with Reece James. United's defence as well, as you picked up on, they've been quite poor across the last 6. They're similar to Sheffield United for minutes per
Yeah,
XGC. So that tells you where they sit. I think both teams defensively are just pretty clear of voids.
yeah, fair enough. I agree. I'm worried with United because I was looked at their delta for the last 6 game weeks, and a battering is coming for some team. I feel like it's going to be that Liverpool game again. There is a battering coming
Oh.
because you can't keep conceding chances like that and not expect to get away from it and not get
Yeah.
punished. But Chelsea, I was thinking of this week moving Areola out to Sanchez,
Mm.
which could have been a great move because he's made 7 saves and now looks like he's getting a double-digit return. But then
He saved the
again,
penalty,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. But then again, if you talk about like how poor defense they are, now I'm like maybe I should look somewhere else for a keeper instead of going for Sanchez.
Yeah, I think so. And even just playing out from the back, how many
Mm,
times did Sanchez deliver it straight to Anthony's feet
mm,
or Bruno's feet? So, yeah, Chelsea, they're making a lot of mistakes and their defense is quite poor. A one to avoid for sure.
yeah, fair enough. Okay, now, I think there was a question with regards to United players as well in terms of would you get them in, but
Yeah, I mean, last season, at the end of the season, I looked at the overall season stats. And Garnacho had a minutes per XGI similar to Mo Salah. But the main difference there is that Salah played way more minutes than
mm,
Garnacho. And of course, Salah is world class. He's an elite finisher. So they're not the same player. But the stats are telling us that Garnacho is getting the opportunities to score goals and create assists for other players. So I think he was one to kind of consider if he was getting the minutes.
mm,
And what I thought was interesting with Ten Hag is he's dropped Rashford. Finally, I love Rashford, but finally,
mm,
and United's press from the front was way more effective.
mm,
They had more energy. They were more cohesive. And if you watch that game against Chelsea, I think you come out of that thinking Garnacho was the player of the match.
mm,
He's got that spot. He's the starting left winger for Manchester United now at 4.7 million. we're talking about downgrades. If you need a downgrade in Mbeumo and you want to have like a 3-4-3, or
Yeah.
if you want to kind of have a player who you can bring on for some good fixtures and bench in others, I don't mind Garnacho.
Mm.
And there was a -4 where I was looking at Garnacho in, and then kind of swapping him as my eighth attacker with Archer. Because at the
Mm.
moment, if you're looking at Garnacho versus Archer for your eighth attacker, the 0.2 million there,
Yeah.
you're not worried about 3 United spots because no one wants 3 United players. I don't mind Garnacho as a punt, and the fixtures are okay. They've got Bournemouth at home this week. You'd bench him for Liverpool away. West Ham away, I think there's goals there. West
Yeah.
Ham defensively, if you're an Areola owner, you know that West Ham aren't the best defensively. So there are a couple of fixtures, then Forest away in 20. So there are some good fixtures that you could play Garnacho in. It is a risk though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not guaranteed minutes, even though I think he's first choice.
Yep. Fair enough. I think he will play the games right for now until like Rashford decides to come off the bench and maybe find some form. But at the moment, I think that's Garnacho's spot to lose at least.
Well, yeah, Rashford came off the bench for Hoyland. So
Yeah, that's
Rashford
right.
played up front. Garnacho got the 90. And Rashford's been playing on the right. When they've
Mm.
been playing together, it's Rashford on the right. And after the performance he showed against Newcastle
Yeah.
and Livramento, of course, he had to be dropped.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting his starting spot back anytime
No.
soon.
Him. All right, let's move over to let's cover the defenders here. Now, Crystal Palace lost to Bournemouth 1-0. I think that game ended. If I'm not mistaken, yes, it did. Oh no, 2-0. It ended.
2-0. Yeah,
Um,
Bournemouth on fire.
Yeah, and the good run has come to an end now. For those who are Palace defenders, and again for those who have Matty Cash, and for just those looking for a defender to go to, do you have any options? And let's just assume for this case that most people own a template defense.
Yeah, I was been speaking about the lack of clean sheets.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're looking to make a defensive transfer, I'd avoid the centre backs and you start picking fullbacks who have an attacking upside. I think at the moment, probably one of the best defenders to own around Matty Cash's price bracket is Pedro Porro from Spurs. Again, I don't see too many clean sheets for Spurs. They've got Newcastle away next, and then they've got Forest, Everton, Brighton, and Bournemouth. They might keep a clean sheet in either that Forest or Everton game, but Pedro Porro's attacking stats have been great. This guy was on before the City game. The two fixtures prior, he had a 0.6 xG in each of those games. I mean, if we've got a midfielder or an attacker with a 0.6 xGI in 90 minutes, we celebrate that. So you're getting that from a defender. His chance creation has really gone up in the absence of Maddison. He's on set pieces as well. So I think Pedro Porro's one of the best defenders to own at the moment. It depends on your budget, but if you are looking for a defender, I think you just go for the attacking guys: Trent, Trippier, Pedro Porro, Reece James, if you want to chance that, or even Kyle Walker from Man City. His starts have been pretty secure. I think there was some talk in the offseason. Kyle Walker was looking like he was going to leave at one point. And I think The Athletic were reporting that part of the discussions in Kyle Walker staying was more minutes for him. And he started, I think, every Premier League game so far this season. He's got the captain's armband now as well. I think he'll continue to start. And as we've said with City, they've got some really good fixtures. So that's probably where I would go if you're looking for a defender.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are the reliable places. Now, in terms of budget, there isn't really that many options available. I guess Livramento, if people still haven't gone to him or don't have triple Newcastle. I was looking. So initially, when I moved Matty Cash off, I moved him for Toffolo. Probably a bad idea looking back at it now, but because he had really good numbers back then. Now,
did you get Toffolo for the 2 assists? Didn't he get 2 assists?
No, I didn't. I got him already. I've benched him so far since I've got him in Toffolo for the last 2 games. So I've got him mainly for that Gameweek 18 against Bournemouth. But now Bournemouth look like they're getting better and better. Robinson is another one from Fulham as a decent option. 4.4 as well, I think. Has Burnley in 18. That's the other one I can think about. But to be honest, again, not many clean sheets elsewhere to go for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just having a look at the stats tables on Fantasy Football Scout in the members area, and there's a Bournemouth defender, Sessi, who I'm thinking, what's this guy doing here? And I've just kind of looked him up. So he's played 90 minutes in the last 4 games. That's kind of coincided with Bournemouth's uptick in form. He scored 14 points against Crystal Palace. He got a goal there. So a little bit knee jerk potentially, but
Mm.
he's getting the minutes. He's only 4.3. And Bournemouth have some great fixtures. Their
Newton
defensive
Forest.
stats have
Yeah.
been really good. So just looking at the minutes per XGC, Bournemouth have the second best defense across the last 6 games. Yeah. So if you're looking for a budget differential,
Yeah.
Senesi, who's got the
Maybe.
attacking threat. Bournemouth have some good defensive stats. But as you say, Livramento there. I'd avoid Lascelles now.
Yeah.
Botman's back in training. Um, yeah, I think Pau Torres, he's a little bit more expensive at 4.5.
Mm.
You could have him in. Yes, he's a centre back, but he could potentially rotate with someone. So, yeah, not many picks in
Yeah.
defence
Slim
at the moment.
pickings. Yeah.
For
Indeed.
sure.
All right. Let's go into Sheffield United versus Liverpool. Salah blanked, which was kind of what. Well, I wasn't worried about Salah blanking, but he did get subbed, which was what I was worried about. And Sheffield United now have Chris Wilder back as well. And to be honest, I thought they played really well against Liverpool. Would we maybe need to consider how we view Sheffield United now with the new manager, or was that like a new manager slash old manager bounce?
Yeah. How much can you stretch that new manager, old manager
Yeah.
bounce for Chris Wilder? Yeah, I agree with you. I think Sheffield United played quite well. They were defensively solid. That's what you'd expect from a Chris Wilder team. They hit Liverpool on the counter a few times. There was that Joe Gomez mistake early on, and they did have a couple of chances. Even Cameron Archer towards the
Yes.
end. He just lacks that clinical finish, Cameron Archer. And if they're going to be a team that sits back and defends, which I think they will be, and looks to counter, they need forwards who can take their chances when they arrive. We saw that last time they were in the Premier League. I think they signed Ryan Brewster from Liverpool. Wilder was the manager then, I believe, and a kind of a similar issue where they had Oliver McBurney and Ryan Brewster, and they could sit back and defend, but they just couldn't score goals. That was their issue. So I think now that Chris Wilder's there, I think we should see Sheffield United less. Look, they're still going to get relegated, in my opinion. They just don't have the players. But I don't think we should expect as many 5-0s, 8-0s as what we had under Heckingbottom. But equally, I think we should still continue to see that as a good fixture for clean sheets.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think attacking wise, maybe not as many goals to be expected, but clean sheets, they're still pretty good team to like have a defender against. Now, Simicas kind of got benched, but I think that was kind of expected, or we were thinking it might have happened this game week just because of rest. Nothing too much to worry about, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was potentially a case of set pieces. Sheffield United have the long throw as well. Liverpool wanted Joe Gomez in there for the height and for that kind of defensive ability. I'd expect Simicas to come back in for that Crystal Palace game. The fact that he was benched, given the rest, Klopp has said that Simicas can't play every game at left back. So if you've got him, I wouldn't be too concerned. I think he starts versus Palace.
Yeah, and I don't think Joe Gomez was pulling any trees with that performance that he had.
No, I mean, how many times did he get to the byline and his cross, his final delivery was really poor. I was quite surprised. He's trying to get it back in on that right foot. And when he does that, the chance is gone.
Yes.
And so, Simicas, from an attacking perspective, I think that there were times in this game where Joe Gomez really needed to get the ball into the box and the delivery was poor. So I think that Klopp will return Simicas to the starting 11.
Yep, fair enough. Now, Trent with another return and double digits again. You seem to be benefiting from it. It's just that he is so expensive at the moment and it's hard to get him in. But you have him in your team. And now, where do you see keeping him for like the long run or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sold him last week for Trippier. Yeah. And you can imagine how I felt after Trippier got 12 points. But then Trent the next day came and got 13 points, and then he's backed it up with another 12-pointer. Trippier is yet to play. Trippier could get 13, and I'd be 0 points better off overall. Yeah. I kind of saw it as an opportunity across 3 weeks. I saw Fulham at home, Sheffield United away, and they've got Crystal Palace away without Eze and without Jack Decore as well. Jack Decore, but Decore, I'm not sure of his first name, but certainly Decore. So I thought, the chances of clean sheets were good, and Trent was from an attacking perspective, he was starting to kind of get back to what we know him to be. So it was a 3-week punt at least, with the view to going back to Trippier if it didn't work, because Newcastle's fixtures are really nice. And I also saw it as an opportunity because if you've got Haaland and Salah, you can't afford Trent. And I just thought, look, I'm taking on Haaland. Every other person who has Haaland has in my opinion, gotten lucky with the budget enablers. Suddenly, Palmer's an option. Suddenly, Simicast is an option. You know, when I wildcarded in game week 8, these guys
No, no, no.
weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't an option. So I got quite frustrated thinking my no Haaland plan is not working out because there are so many cheap budget enablers. And that's part of the reason why I thought, look, Trent, there's an opportunity here. He'll be there for the next fixture against Palace, but beyond that, I'm not sure. He could be a downgrade to Trippier,
Mm.
but I do like having that because I'm only going to have one premium.
Yeah.
So I do like having a more premium defender in either Trent or Trippier. So if Trent doesn't stay, Trippier will come back.
All right, cool. Now, we can't end this without talking about Fulham. 5-star performance with 5 goals. Forrest, on the other hand, just looked poor. I'm not sure if Cooper might keep his job at this rate. Some managers went with Gibbs White. I went with Toffolo for this good run, fixture run. Is it time to sell and accept that Forest aren't going to be good enough for the upcoming run, or would you still hold?
Yeah, it's sad to see what's happening at Forest. I know that Mark Southern's a Forest fan, has spoken recently on Clash of the Correspondents with Planet FPL. He's spoken about how Forest are kind of more open, they're more attacking, that Steve Cooper had signed these attacking players, and he seemed to suggest there was some pressure for Forest to be more attacking, and it's kind of leaving them more exposed. They're kind of getting on the ball a little bit more. Trying to control games and take the game to the opposition, and that's leaving them more open. And the one game really that they didn't do that was the win against Brighton, where they sat deep, they allowed Brighton to have the ball, and that's what has made Forest so good since they've been promoted to the Premier League. So they've gone away from, I think, what makes them good, and they've started trying to be a little bit more aggressive, and it's not working so far. I really hope Steve Cooper keeps his job. I think he's done a fantastic job there. But yeah, without Awani up front, Gibbs White was benched today.
Yeah.
I think Forest are an avoid. Fulham, on the other hand, Fulham are great, scoring goals. And Willian, I think he's a really good budget enabler. We overlook him, but he's on penalties. He got an assist today. They've got a good fixture in game week 18, Fulham. They've got Burnley at home. So in that blank game week, and this week they've got West Ham at home. So you could go for a cheap Fulham attacker, bench them for Newcastle in 17, and then bring them back out for game week 18 against Burnley.
Yep, fair enough. And yeah, they look really good. Jimenez also back to scoring goals. And you've mentioned already like some Fulham players that are available. I was initially also thinking like Leno as a replacement for Areola because he keeps saves. Fulham at times. Fulham aren't a really bad defensive team. They can put in like performances. So yeah, might have to think about where I go for the West Ham goalkeeper, but we'll see.
I think you just go to Bravka, don't you?
But I have triple Newcastle with Lascelles, so I have to kind of move Lascelles out. That's the problem.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 free transfers?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Is that what you're looking to do this week?
No, I was thinking of doing so I was going to do well, I'm now forced to do Mbeumo to Palmer, probably. Yep. So I could do Bowen to Son a week early, or I could just wait to give Bowen one more week, which I think he has a good fixture against Palace, and then do it. Maybe I might have to move Lascelles down this week and then slowly get Dubravka in for Turner. I think that might have to be the play, but we'll have to see. Depends on how things go.
Yeah, I mean, Tottenham have Newcastle at home. So I don't think Newcastle away from home have only kept one clean sheet all season. So there's never a bad week to get Son.
Yeah. So
but he's not essential.
Early, but yeah,
he's not essential this week. So yeah, you could wait. And who does Bowen have? He's got Fulham away from home. So yeah, I'd be tempted to just hold off on Son until game week 17.
Yeah, that was the plan. Yeah,
sort out your defense and goalkeeper situation potentially.
Yeah, probably that might be the way to go. So we'll see how we go. Now there was a question from Simon as well with regards to Mbeumo replacement and Simicast over, but I think we kind of answered both of that as well in the pod. So that's basically all I've got. Before we end, captaincy.
Oh yes,
Haaland?
Captaincy. I mean, if you've got him, Haaland is the best captain this week, in my opinion, against Luton away from home. Salah against Crystal Palace, I don't mind that. He came off early, so I'd be confident of another start for Salah. I think Darwin will start. And even though Darwin misses a lot of chances, I think Darwin is better for Salah than Cody Gakpo is. Gakpo just, I didn't like the way Liverpool attacked with Gakpo starting today against Sheffield United. So yeah, Haaland's the captain pick. If you don't have him like me, then I think Salah against Crystal Palace is a perfectly fine option.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Any differentials or just like no, not really?
There's some tough fixtures this week. Like
Yeah,
Spurs are taking on Newcastle,
Newcastle.
Arsenal are playing Villa. If you want a differential and you've got someone like Hwang against Forest, I mean, you could potentially go there, but you're not sticking the captain's
Yeah,
armband on him.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's either a Haaland or a Salah
Salah.
week,
Yeah.
and if you've got Haaland, I think it's an obvious captain.
Cool. Awesome. So thank you for your time today. Do you have anything to plug?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for that opportunity. Yeah, if you want to check out my YouTube channel, it's FPL Inzaghi. Each week I post some videos. We do a couple of live streams as well, so there's heaps of content over there. If you'd like to come and check it out and potentially support the channel, so yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.
The links will be in the description for that. And also you can find me, Football Chatbox on YouTube, where I do weekly videos and deadline streams. That's it for this week's Scout the Game Week. We'll be back after Game Week 16 and looking ahead to Game Week 17. Green arrows all.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.